Hello again. Can you remember what we were talking about the last time that I spoke to you? How I talked about Abraham, who had gone on a long journey and God had given him promises that he would look after him and his future. Well, there was a young man called Daniel, and Daniel had grown up knowing these promises that God gave to his people. And when he was about 17, the king of Babylon, now Babylon is the country that we call Iraq today, the king of Babylon came and took Daniel and his friends and took them to university in Babylon. Now, one would think that would be an exciting time, but no, Daniel was taken away as a prisoner. He had no choice, but the king took him and forced him to join this course for 3 years so that he could learn how to be Babylonian, so that he could forget all of the things that he had been taught in Israel. He'd learn a new language. He'd be given a new name. He would take on the customs of the country that he'd been taken to. But Daniel wasn't so easily turned around. When the king presented Daniel with food that was going to be offensive to his God and to his family, Daniel said, "I'd rather become a vegetarian." That was a risky thing for Daniel to do because he could have got into real trouble for refusing to do what he'd been told. But Daniel knew that it was more important for him to do what was right. And God looked after Daniel. We're told at the end of this short story that when Daniel finished his 3 years, he knew more. And he was wiser than all the other people that were on the course with him. God had looked after Daniel because Daniel had stood by what was right. I want you to look at this picture on the screen. Can you see what is happening in this picture? You see how there are a group of children and they're talking about the child that's on the other side. Perhaps they're saying rude things about her. Now I want you to imagine that you are part of that little group of children and that they're all your good friends. It's very tempting, isn't it, to join in and do the wrong thing so that you can stay friends. But this morning I'm encouraging you to resist what we might call peer pressure. Peer pressure is when everyone around us is trying to get us to do something, but we know that it's wrong. There's a word that we could use for having the courage to do the right thing. Look at this definition on the screen. This was a Christian teacher in the middle of the 20th century who said that integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Or how about this one? Integrity means that you choose your thoughts and your actions based on values rather than personal gain. Sometimes we do the right thing even if it might mean that we will get into trouble, like Daniel in our story. But the thing I like about Daniel's story is that it ends with a real positive, that Daniel ends up better off for having done the right thing. Look at this picture. What can you see in this picture? It's a bit like a huddle before a football match. I'd like to imagine that this peer pressure here is that they're all encouraging each other to do the right thing. So this morning, let me encourage you. Let's have courage when we're encouraged to do the wrong thing, to say no and to stand up for what is right, even if that makes us a little bit unpopular. And if we all do it, then we'll be like this last picture. We'll all be encouraging one another. And the place where we're at school, our family, our friendships will all be much nicer as we do the right things together.